Thor: Love and Thunder. We both saw Thor: Love and Thunder this week, and well, you saw it before me, so we're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to let you start.
Yeah, so before we start, I think we should talk about our experience with Thor Ragnarok first. I wasn't too convinced the first time seeing Thor Ragnarok. I liked it, but it was a bit too over the top for my taste.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you convinced me to watch it a second time.
I love it.
Yeah, he loved it straight away. So the second time around, I liked it more because my expectations were a bit set, more on the comedic side of things compared to the first serious ones.
Yeah, you shouldn't take it too seriously.
No. It was a better experience, and I went in with the same expectations of the second viewing of Ragnarok into this movie. So yeah.
Yeah, you kind of know what you can expect with this one. If you've seen Ragnarok, and you know it's the same directors, the same people,
Same improv.
Yeah, so you kind of know what to expect, and the film immediately sets the tone with the opening scene, with the opening battle, actually, when they're fighting on this planet, and he just bounces in, and there's this completely over-the-top fight scene where he does the completely weird things. He smashes everything. It just looks really, really comedic. He destroys the temple. There's nothing to be taken seriously about this fight at all, and it sets the tone for the movie.
Yeah,
you just know that all right, it's gonna be this kind of movie, and you know what you're up for the next however long the film is. So,
with the awesome Jean-Claude Van Damme split
between
between the cars.
he does the split
Great
between
homage.
the two things
Yeah,
colliding, and that sets the tone for the rest of the film.
it's really over the top.
Yeah, it's gonna be an action movie. It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be funny, and but what it does do is it takes the funny. It takes a lot of the jokes, and this is a very interesting and difficult thing to do, because despite of the non-serious tone of the film, and despite all of the jokes throughout, there are some very serious topics in this. Of course, you've got Thor, who's still dealing with the post-Endgame depression that he was already greatly suffering from in Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
You've got Jane Foster dealing with cancer. You've got Gore, the antagonist of the film, dealing with the loss of basically everything, and just spending his life getting revenge,
Getting his beliefs crushed.
Yeah. So
Hell, yeah.
this is a very difficult thing to do, and it's also, oftentimes people say you have to pick a tone for your film, and this film just takes very serious topics and then intermingles them with jokes, and I think it's not a very great movie, but it's definitely a fun movie.
Yeah, I think the humor is over the top like Ragnarok was, but the setup of the jokes it's being forced too much compared to the first one from Taika.
Yeah.
It's just too long, some of the jokes. There are a lot of setup jokes for later on in the movie. Those work better. Not all of them, but they work better. Example of one of the jokes that played out too long was the stage play with all the cameos from Matt Damon, Sam Neill.
Melissa McCarthy.
Of course, yeah.
Great new addition to the stage play cast.
Yeah, but it was so long compared to the first instance in Ragnarok. If they shortened it and made the punchline with Melissa, as the end of the joke, it would have been punchier, the joke. It was too long, too stretched.
I get why they did it. It doubles as a short recap of things that happened in Thor Ragnarok, but let's be honest, the kind of people that go to Thor Love and Thunder, they have seen Ragnarok multiple times. They know what happened in Ragnarok.
Of course, yeah.
So, it was a joke that may have played out a little too long, but it was not played out as long as the goats, though.
No. The goats take a whole different crown of
there were a lot of goats in this movie.
No, there were not just two. But
it's not the goat of Thor movies, but it is the goatiest of Thor movies.
Yes.
It definitely is. Although I have to say, the last time they had the goats, they did the goat screaming joke. That was also the funniest one when he crashed into the planet.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I thought that planet, it appears very far away, very big, and then it turns out it's just very tiny and very close, and they just crash right into it. And
I like that.
That made me laugh. That was funny.
Yeah, it's on same par as the Mjolnir Stormbreaker joke that went on a long time as well.
Oh yeah, the jealous Stormbreaker.
The jealous
I forgot about
Stormbreaker.
that. Yeah.
I find that joke to be on par with the goats. The setup was really long, and there was a lot of instances that they used the same joke, but at the end it was just funnier, and
Jokes like those are generally funny 2 or 3 times, and if you repeat them more often than that, they tend to become tedious unless you really change them up. Yeah. But how much can you change up a jealous axe? I wonder. It's not
much.
That much. Not that much. Probably.
Just a shot coming in from the side, like, and then. Being like intimidating, like a battle axe is. Exactly. It was fun, but yeah.
But then you got a couple of serious themes that I think that they did very well. I already mentioned a couple of the things earlier, like Jane's disease and Thor's depression. But there's also the antagonist in this film, Gore, who was played by the ever amazing Christine Bale.
I think he was really good in this one.
Yeah.
But I think it just didn't fit as well as Hela in combination with Scourge the Executioner, because they were played with comedic undertone as well.
Yeah, they were over the top.
They were over the top.
80s sci-fi villain kind of vibe.
Yeah, and Gore was really serious. There was no comedic undertone. He was played really well. But yeah, I liked him, but he was a bit serious. He was more of a DC villain or a Thanos villain than he was for a Taika Waititi villain, in my opinion.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I liked him. What else kind of villain? Yeah. And I mean, they did set up the ending pretty nicely with the Love and Thunder thing, because the whole time, ever since they announced the movie, I was like, okay, Love and Thunder, what kind of title is that? It's a bit of a, it doesn't have the same power that a lot of the other, I wouldn't say power, it doesn't have the same, it doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as many of the other Marvel films titles do. But when they do it at the end with the little girl, and they were known as Love and Thunder, I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah,
I like that. I really like that, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in future films.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to seeing Chris playing Thor some more.
He's so good as Thor. He is literally Thor.
He is Thor.
Yeah, and I think there's still so many things they can do with that character. There's so many storylines they can still adapt into a movie, and he just has that. He just works really well with a lot of the other characters within the MCU. Yeah. So there are so many ways.
It's good chemistry, and he's really good at the improv, and he gets the room now to do that. Yep. So I find it a good fit. But talking about the ending, and talking about earlier about the DC universe.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Martha moment at the end?
The Martha moment, like when they suddenly had this moment where Gore and Thor agreed it was more important to love than to hate because you lost something. You mean that kind of thing that they can suddenly relate. I think that was the only way they could finish the movie, because he lost his daughter, he lost everything he held dear, and getting revenge. Why would you kill all the gods when you can instead wish for your daughter to come back to life, which was the main reason that you threw it all away to begin with? Yeah. And it had to be resolved this way, because if Gore had died and Jane had died, then Thor would have had nothing left again, and he would have had nothing left to live for, and he would have been back where he was at the start of the movie. There would have been no character arc, no development at all.
Progress. No.
And now there's progress. Now he has something. He has someone he can care for. He can do things with. He can go forward for. So to have that character development, to have him at a different position at the end of the film than he was at the beginning of the film, you have to do this. There was no other way, in my opinion. You would have had nothing left.
In my opinion, it was a nod to the Martha moment, but I think it was better handled than in Batman v Superman.
Oh, definitely,
yeah, it
definitely.
Was really.
Yeah, but that's because it was not.
It fit better.
It wasn't out of left field at all. No. Because it fit Gore's character motivation. He did it for his daughter, and at the end, he was reminded that instead of getting revenge for his daughter, he could also just bring back his daughter.
Yeah, and of course, the sword that corrupted him was gone, so his own mind was back a bit more. I think
he had a bit more control.
Yeah.
And then there's the after credits scene, of course, and which brings me back to another point in the film I wanted to talk about, because at the end, of course, we see that Zeus is still alive. That's not a surprise at all, because how easy would it be to kill Zeus like that? Nobody.
With lightning.
Yeah. So we got our first showing of Hercules, and obviously a setup for a future MCU, probably a future Thor movie.
Yep.
Because Zeus is not amused. Maybe you could take it as Kratos. He has some experience in that regard. I think that would be quite effective. But circling back to Omnipotent City, which was a very interesting scene, there were two things there that stood out to me. One I only noticed later, but one thing was very obvious, is that at one point in the when they're in the God meeting, there's this guy stuck in a jar or a chest with just his head poking out in his hands, which could be a Marvel or comic or God character that we know nothing about because we haven't read all the comics. Obviously.
I don't know him. No.
But I recognize him from a different series that the both of us enjoy, which is right behind here as well. It's One Piece. He looked like Gaimon, the character from One Piece, from one of the very early arcs, the guy that's stuck in the treasure chest.
Yeah.
And of course we know Taika is a massive One Piece fan, so it could definitely be a small nod to the series.
I think you're on the money with that one.
Yeah, and there was also another thing that I really enjoyed about that. If you remember the first film where Korg talked about not printing enough pamphlets, and he lost the paper, basically, when he wants to start his revolution.
Yeah.
And he makes the rock, paper, scissors jokes. Do you know who didn't lose the paper? It's the Nitty Nitty King, the god that Korg talks about before they go to Omnipotent City. Because he is sitting on a throne made of scissors.
Oh, that's a smart one.
Very subtle, very subtle. And I did not notice when I saw the movie, and obviously neither did you. I was pointed out to it, and I had to find that scene, and I saw, and he is definitely sitting on the front of scissors. So
cool.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
That's a smart meta joke to put in there.
Yeah. So basically, what we do with this concept is we disagree on a lot of things. Even though we have a lot of common interest, we have a lot of shared interest, we disagree on a lot of things.
A lot.
Yeah. So do we agree or disagree on Thor: Love and Thunder? I think we agree.
Yeah.
It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie, and I definitely want to see it again. I think it will be better.
I think it deserves a rewatch to make it better, in my opinion. I think it will be better on rewatch. One thing that will never get old of me is Guns N' Roses, so only the soundtrack.
Soundtrack's definitely for you.
Good. Yeah, it's good.
But I just want to see that first fight scene again, because no matter how over the top it was, I just want to see it again, because it's awesome.
And we can never get enough goats.
Let's go. Goats.
Goats.
And of course the sound that's going to haunt my dreams for a couple of weeks. Yours too, probably.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.